All right, so this is to make up for the issue we had with the recording today. The first thing I did was I shared with everybody what was happening for this week's assignments. So remember, every Monday you need to go to the week and the weekly breakdown. And as you can see, the weekly breakdown will tell you what is happening for the week with a little additional instruction. So this week you're reading Chapter 2 in your textbook on theories, watching the PowerPoint on development, doing reading analysis 2 about Chapter 2, completing the weekly quiz on Chapter 2. You have multiple attempts to score 100%. Do the For Further Understanding in Chapter 2 and do Discussion Board 1 on theories. Note that when you are doing your discussion board, the response to the instructor's post is due on Thursday. The responses to 2 classmates are due on Sunday, and you may post more than one response. Look at the discussion board guidelines here before you start, and I will go over those. Let me pull up. All right. So, again, your first response to my question is due on midnight, by midnight, 11:59 on Thursday of that week. And your 2 replies to other students are due by Sunday of that week. You can read through these instructions, but what I am looking for, and here's an example of a well-written discussion board post, and this probably is a longer post than necessary, but I am looking for 2 well-written paragraphs to your instructor's post. So I'm looking for, at least 5 to 7 sentences, 2 well-written paragraphs, at least. And then in your replies to classmates, I'm looking for 1 well-written paragraph, and here's an example of what those would look like. So I do grade based on what you wrote, if you answered all of the writing prompts, and I also look at how long your reply is. The other thing to remember about discussion board posts is that they can't be late. Even if you have to go to a funeral or something, these can't be late because of the timeliness of them. Your classmates need you to reply, so they have something to reply to. But they're only 10 points. So if you miss 10 points, it's probably not going to be, it's probably not going to make or break your grade. So those are the discussion boards. If you are using a hard copy of the book, the opt-out date for the ebook is 11:59 on Thursday, this August 31st. You will be charged for the ebook if you do not opt out. To opt out and say, I don't want to use the ebook because I'm using a hard copy, you go right here and download this document. And this gives you information on how to access the ebook, which you are already doing, and then how to opt out as well. Again, the deadline is this Thursday. Okay, so back to modules. We talked about doing the discussion board. Your reading analysis is very similar is exactly like what we did last week, but it's on Chapter 2. Your weekly quiz is here, and all you're doing here is answering the questions. The questions all come from the book chapters, and then you just, click on the circle for whichever one you want to answer. And then when you're done, you hit Submit Quiz at the bottom, and then it will give you what your points are. If you didn't get all 10 points, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Hang on. If you didn't get all 10 points on the quiz the first time, you can redo the quiz as many times as you need to earn 10 points. The For Further Understanding this week, here, this is just a little blurb on For Further Understanding assignments. And this is the one for Chapter 2. It tells you to watch the Areas of Development PowerPoint found in the Week 2 module and then answer the following questions. So you are going to come here to Modules, and you are going to watch the Types of Development PowerPoint that is here. And then you're going to use that information to answer the questions for further understanding, which is here. Typically for further understanding assignments usually have something that you're going to watch, usually a YouTube video, and then there are these reflective questions here. So for here, you choose one of these, then you choose one of these, and you choose one of these, and then there's a final question. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 questions to answer. You can upload a new document and type your answers on a new document, or you can just hit return and type your answers here. That's fine. And then you will save it and upload it like any other assignment. All right, and so those are your assignments for the week. Everything is due by Sunday. The next thing is that I went over the 4 types of development handouts here. So this first handout goes along with that video that the PowerPoint video that you're watching on your For Further Understanding. This is just a reminder of what each of these areas of development means. The reason that we're covering this now is because you're going to be using this information when you start your major course project. And also every chapter that we read in the book covers this area of development for the age group that we're talking about. Then there's a quiz. This isn't being turned in, this was just an in-class assignment that we did. It's not graded or anything like that. If you choose not to do it, it's okay. But I suggest that you practice so that you know what types of development you're looking for, because these are the same things you're going to do when you are observing the child for your child study in the major course project. You're going to be giving examples of physical development, social development, emotional development, and physical development. The answers to the quiz are here. You don't have to turn it in. This is just for your own knowledge. And then the last thing that we did was we started the Chapter 2 PowerPoint, and we just got through talking about what theory means, and then also we talked about Erik Erikson. And so our book tells us that a theory is a systematic statement of principles and beliefs created to explain a group of facts that have been widely tested or accepted. Developmental theory provides a framework for explaining the patterns and problems of development. And because in early childhood we're focused on all 4 areas of development with those children that we work with, it's important that we know the developmental milestones that the children have. And also, theory helps us understand why children are doing what they are doing or not doing. It also helps us plan and organize activities in the classroom. So for example, if we know that a child is around 1 and one of the milestones for 1 year old is to be able to walk, we should be providing opportunities for that child to practice walking with the activities and the way that we set up our classroom. And we talked a little bit about like the difference between an infant toddler classroom and a preschool classroom. In an infant toddler classroom, there's a lot of open space, there's carpets, there's padding, there's things to climb on because that's a sensitive period for climbing. Children need to be working on that. We don't have learning centers in an infant toddler classroom because they don't have the cognitive ability to be able to do what we do in learning centers. Children in preschool do have those cognitive abilities and are also working on social skills and emotional regulation and things like that. So learning centers are appropriate, but we only know that because we know, theoretically what children and their development should look like at certain ages. Erik Erikson is related to psychosocial theory, and so that falls mostly under social emotional development. One of the things about social emotional development is that you see them connected a lot. And you might have noticed that when you did the quiz, some of those you might have said, well, it's emotional, but I could see how it could be social as well. And that's because our social environment impacts how we see ourselves, how we feel, and all of that influences our emotions as well. So that's why they go together like that often. He has 8 stages of psychosocial development throughout our lifetime. We'll only focus on the first few. In each stage, he's telling us that the person is trying to master a new challenge. And if they don't meet that challenge, then it's likely that that issue will continue to come up. So for example, in the first stage, trust versus mistrust for infants and toddlers, we want infants to have a predictable and supportive world. So their caregivers should be providing responsive caregiving to them and making sure that they're getting fed when they need to get fed, changed when they need to get changed, are interacting with them, playing with them. And if their world is not predictable and supportive, if they're not getting responsive caregiving, then that leads to mistrust of their caregivers. And then Erikson tells us that that can continue on along the lifespan, and that person continues to always have trust issues. And if they continue to have trust issues, it's hard to develop relationships, and relationships tend to be fraught with issues then. His next stage is birth to 3 years, autonomy versus shame. And he references toilet training, but that's not the only type of development that can be impacted. Autonomy is really about being self-sufficient. And 1 to 3 year old children are starting to do things that help them show self-sufficiency and being able to do things on their own, including things like toilet training, feeding, walking, exploring, and really starting to trust their own abilities. But if we have an adult that's always hovering, doing things for the child, telling them no, really restricting what they're able to do, then that can lead to shame or them doubting their own abilities. And we need to make sure that we're aware of those emerging skills and we give them many opportunities to practice those skills in a safe environment. Again, toilet training is one that gets brought up a lot because children and adults seem to have a lot of a power struggle with toilet training. And so that's one of the ones that's a good example. 3 to 6 years, we have initiative versus guilt, which is when children want to do things. They want to start to have a little bit more freedom and opportunity to take initiative. And if there are too many limits set by parents, then they start to feel guilty, that it hinders their initiative and can often then create a sense of dependence instead of independence. And then 6 through 12, industry versus inferiority. A lot of these are related around school. So children are learning to be competent and productive in mastering new skills, or they feel inferior, unable to do anything as well as they wish they could. They're starting to compare themselves to peers. We want children to feel industrious, to be able to make their own decisions, to be able to be successful at tasks. This can include things like being on a sports team, doing well in like reading or math or science, making friends socially, being successful socially. It's really about working towards goals. It's also about doing and making and producing things like scoring a goal or completing a project for Scouts or anything like that. We want them to be industrious. Again, providing a safe environment for them to be able to do that. And that was pretty much as far as we got today. We got to this last slide and then we finished up, and we will continue then on Thursday with the next section.